So we're going to, and then this is week one of Life as Rehearsal for the poem, second quarter 2002. And so we've added a couple of people to the mix here, and now I think 12 is our, and it's a nice number of boxes. It fits nicely in the rectangle there. So we're going to do the same thing. Who you, and this is important because of new people. So who you are, where you're from. It doesn't necessarily mean where you live, but if you don't live where you're from, you should probably mention both places. Like, I'm from Chicago. Anyone asks me where you're from, I say Chicago, but I live in Seattle on Lake Washington in Rainier Beach, Cascadia bioregion. And then the course materials. If you have any questions, concerns, what you liked, what you thought was boring, what you didn't understand, anything is up. If you've done some writings, and Anne Graham Walker, if you want to read both of those poems, completely fine with me. If you've already written up your check-in, fantastic. As I mentioned before, that's the Skylar Lovelace method, and I recommend it. It's music to a Virgo's heart when you prepare like that. And we'll hopefully take a pee break here within an hour. And I'd like to start with the new kid. So I think that's fair. Diana?
Okay, hi. I came to this class out of another one of Paul's classes. So I've had, I guess, only one. I've taken one of your classes so far, but I'm also on the board of Cascadia Poetics Lab, and so I'm doing my own diving into what all of that means. I guess I know Adelia, but I don't believe I've met the rest of you. So I live in San Clemente right now, but I am of the Intermountain West, sort of Montana, El Paso, Texas, Bountiful and Logan, Utah, and raised my family in Northern California, and then spent 30 years in Seattle. So I am a hardcore Westerner. I get very confused east of the Mississippi. It's all sort of gets very vague and crowded to me, but it's interesting. And I've published one chapbook, my first one last year, hope to do more. And I'm delighted to enter into this universe of this cosmology that Paul offers, because it's so different from, I mean, I've had a lot of classes, and I don't have an MFA, but it's so different and such a multimedia, multi-sensory way to dive into poetry, and it's a whole different set of writers than I've been exposed to much. So I'm really pleased to be engaged.
What's the biggest difference between the poetry you've been getting in the other classes and what you're getting here?
Well, I think I, like so many of us, I sort of grew up in the ought to, should be like Western canon of poetry, and I somehow thought that I was failing if I wasn't very interested in writing a sestina or a villanelle. And
you are forgiven for
yeah,
not wanting to write sestinas, which Paul Hunter said.
I would
sestinas.
love to do this, but there've been some really blockbuster ones done, and all mine come out lame. So
Paul Hunter said sestinas are poems that poets write for other poets.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all forms they have their charms and they're interesting, but it's, I feel like I started up like in this formal academic realm, and now I've gone back to basics and I'm exploring poetry, giving myself and my own interests and my own tendencies a lot of credibility and a lot of weight, as opposed to dismissing all of that and trying to be not understanding why I didn't like Ezra Pound better. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got for now.
Oh, but you have about the course materials, and if you've written.
Oh yeah, so I did the interview, and Robert Brem Is that right? John Brennan.
John Brennan, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was wonderful. I don't know that I pulled anything specific from it, except that the tone of it and the quietness. And I was so taken with that I did order his book. And I just like his quiet approach to getting poems on the page. I was really taken with the Ed Sanders piece on the multi-decade research project. I thought that at first I was like, what the hell is this? And then I stumbled across an old interview of his in the process of reading what you had posted, Paul. And the quote in the interview was about the band he was in, the Fugs, who, of course, I was a teenager in Utah. And so I had a very different experience than other people in the 60s. It was not rock and roll and drugs and free sex. Anyway, he says we decided to form a band and do some poetry and music because that's what everybody was doing. We didn't have any grandiose scheme in mind. We just wanted to have some fun. And I just thought that was sort of the essence.
Oh, don't leave us hanging. Is Diana frozen in your box? Yeah, Diane. Oh, so far south to be frozen. Ed Sanders. Diana, come back. Come back. Oh. She got the two okays going there, and
She looks like somebody in Pompeii.
she's been frozen. Diana, yes, you were frozen. Yeah. Oh, damn. Well, let me tell you something before she comes back.
Diana, come back.
She's gone. She's gone. Let me tell you something. This person is a whiz at a secretary. Holy shit, she makes my life so much easier. All right, she's back. All right, can you hear it? Did you unmute? Are you unmuted? And nope.
It
No.
bounced me out.
There you go. Okay. I didn't do it.
Okay.
It was a system, but you were frozen like
when I was talking about, I thought that Ed Sanders' advice, his comment about they started the band mostly for fun, not because they had some big grand theory of about what they were doing, and that it was we just wanted to have some fun. But I have to say they were very dedicated to having their fun. So there needs to be a new phrase, that's where it's not fun like just in the sandbox. It's like having fun with intention or something like that. But the farther I got into his list of stuff, I realized he was trying to marry, this is how I took it. He starts to marry a whole new vocabulary that's much more modern with old Greek vocabulary, with formalistic poetry vocabulary, and sort of creating his own map of how he's going to play in the poetry sandbox. That's what I took away from it. So it seemed to me that was a great, that makes this a great example of poetics as cosmology. He says you have to have a plan. He says you need to think over a long period of time, and you need to have a plan because your brain then will know what to work on while you appear to not be working on anything. And the two quote, I loved the having your own sesh, the Egyptian sesh, where he showed the Egyptian hieroglyph, and he said you have, it's like your portable painter's box. You need to have your little kit with you at all times, so that when the moment takes you, and you might be able to feed it into a poem, you're ready to capture it. So I also liked the creativity zone idea, the place where you create has a configuration that acts upon your work. And the way you arrange your information systems in your creativity zone, that just cracked me up.
I can't tell if she's paused or if
has
she's
meaning.
frozen.
So I'm now going to be expecting more of them.
We missed a little bit. Why
Which
don't you, did you write something?
No,
Oh, you didn't. Okay. Well, that's all
nope,
right.
haven't got that far. Started, but didn't come up with anything.
And the Ed Sanders and stuff was sort of a prelude, but then there was material under that about, the plastic Fiona Tinway Lamb with the plastic video and other things. Anything strike you about that stuff?
No, I think that I enjoyed the plastic thing immensely and thought it was powerful. And I listened to the Spotify. And I felt like when I was listening to the Spotify, I went back to the short version because I was interested in the effects of the repetition of different versions. And I want to do that again and see how that resonates. And I'm looking upon that as an information system that will inform my poetry somehow. But anyway.
Well, the cover poem exercise. I mean, here's the musical. Well, obviously the cover poem is based on covers in music, and to hear how people interpret certain tunes, especially familiar tunes, can be a tremendous eye opener. It can give you ideas for your own way to handle it in a verse way. So I think I'm glad you brought that up. That's fantastic. Open form. When it comes to the discussion between open form versus formalism, Sam Hamill used to say, "That argument is over. We won." But he used to say, and he's right, formalism is like Dixieland jazz. I mean, it's nice to see every now and then, but no one really takes it seriously. I don't think. I think language poetry is in its own way kind of a formalism. And then talking about having fun in the sandbox reminded me of a Marianne Moore quote, oddly enough. So that's two references to her. I'm pretty sure the quote is, "Freedom is a discipline we impose on ourselves." Something to that effect. So I'm with her on that. Diana, welcome. I think you're going to
Thank
fit
you.
right in. I think it's fantastic that you're here, and glad you're not frozen right now. All right. So I'm going to give you a heads up now. We're going to go Linda, Ann, and Skylar. We're going to go that way. Bottom row in my 12 boxes here. So Linda Crossfield gets, and you got to do a little more formal introduction because, Diana doesn't know who you are. So. Oh, don't tell me you're frozen.
No, I'm here.
Okay, good.
All good. I just had to find my
I
correct.
might just do that tonight. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm on my laptop instead of the bigger machine because it's more comfortable down here.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm Linda Crossfield. It's nice to meet you, Diana. I too ended up ordering that book. By the way, I smiled when you said that you liked his poems enough. John Breams or Bream or whatever his name is. I found I just totally resonated with his work. Anyway, I live in near Castlegar, British Columbia, which is north of Spokane, just over the border. And yeah, I live on the confluence of the Columbia and Kootenai rivers. The Columbia River appears in my ongoing poem a lot because I go and sit by. I was down there this morning, as a matter of fact, hunting more poems. I have a rock now that I go and sit on at one point, and a bench, a special bench as well. And I have something with me. And yeah, so I'm sort of going backwards from my notes here, but I made notes on, yes.
Have you named those places, the rock and the bench?
Yeah. The bench is Cock Bench.
I beg your pardon?
Cock Bench. Because somebody scrawled, I'll read you a brief bit of poem later when I get done here, which will explain that.
Good. That I think
Okay.
that deserves an explanation. I was
Yes.
wondering if you sit on the bench in the right way, does it get bigger? I don't
It's not that kind of a bench, Paul. Okay. So yes, going through the material, I really love the Fiona Tinway Lamb visual poem on plasticnic, I think she called it. Anyway, very clever and beautifully done. And you look at it and go like, wow, why can't I think of things like that? And then I ended up watching 2 more of her videos. The one utility pole, and there's a really neat line in it: only woodpeckers remember, drill you back into tree. You know, just wonderful stuff. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then her chrysanthemum poem, which is about her mother and stuff, and Chinese calligraphy kind of art, is an older one, but it's really good too. So anyway, so I went down that rabbit hole for a little bit. Then I read the John Bream interview. Well, I really enjoyed your interview. Actually, I listened to it this morning on my walk. And then I read his poems when I got back, and I love his humor. The poems I have not written it's just brilliant. It's one of the ones that's on his website there that you can read. I just found it was wonderful. And also I decided to weigh my head. I don't know if anybody read that one, but there's there's lines that go, I lay down on the bathroom tile, pillowed the scale under the back of my skull, held the hand mirror at arm's length, and took a good look at myself, the absurdity of my situation, a grown man lying between toilet and tub, wearing the slightly self-mocking anticipatory expression of a person who has decided to weigh his head. I mean, like, what a mind. Anyway, I found him quite fascinating. So anyway, after seeing about Fiona's plastics poem and John's Weigh Your Head poem, and I no longer wonder why I come to this class. I'm reminded yet again, it's just where else would I find this stuff? Both in this class and in the big picture. Let's see. Yeah, and then I read his poem, The Swifts, which ends up being about his father. It's about a whole bunch of things. And again, sort of starts out really light, and then, yeah, he's an amazing poet. I'm really glad to be introduced to him. And I like his style with the short lines. I read what I could online of Spring and All. I meant to order it and forgot. I was struck, of course, by the similarities of when it came out and what's happening was going on politically then and now. Seems we never learn. I enjoyed the spring music. I added When It's Springtime in the Rockies. You missed that one.
By whom?
I do the Mo Bandy one.
Mo Bandy.
Mo Bandy, yeah, definitely not Gene Autry. It's a teeth grinder. And I also added Simon and Garfunkel's April Come She Will. But it was a great playlist, and I really enjoyed it. And March came, and it was like January and February were both just awful months for me. I felt dragged down, and it was just like, okay, you know, we've been doing this for a year now. This isn't fun anymore. I wasn't going to any Zoom poetry readings, or not many. You know, and then March came and the sun came out, and it was like, oh my God, the lifting. Just, yeah. So I, you know, really enjoyed the spring music and where it's been going. The C.D. Wright. I always used to think C.D. Wright was a man. I did know it before I, you know, read what you had to give us here. That In Front of a Donut Shop is a harrowing poem, and she's so clever. Yeah, she's not my favorite poet, but I'll certainly give her clever. Does anybody else want to know what CD stands for?
Carolyn D. Carolyn,
Thank
I don't
you.
know what the D stands for. There's a
Okay.
Seattle poet named Carolyn Wright,
Ah,
and I don't know if CD took it because of Carolyn Wright here in town, or why. And she's no longer with us.
okay.
But I know the C is Carolyn.
Well, there you go. That's part of the mystery solved. Yeah, so anyways, so what else do I have down here? Yeah, just talking about March and how nice it is to be beyond February and January. Yeah, the thing on poem hunting, I really get, because it's what I've been doing it one way or another for decades, but I'm really doing it now. As I say, I have a few set places I'm going and other ones as well, but I'm finding it very useful. And now, if you give me a second, I can probably pull up something. There it is.
After the cock bench reference, I was fearing a Cleavon Little from Blazing Saddles. Excuse me a moment while I whip this out.
Oh, God. I'm not getting this share thing isn't working, possibly because I'm down on my laptop. Usually works. So I'm afraid I'll just have to read it to you. Just a second.
The share screen has been enabled. You might want to just give it another crack, and if not,
Okay.
reading it would be good. And
Allow Zoom to share your screen. Okay.
that sounded like a positive development.
No, that was a message coming in.
That's it.
No, it's not working. Sorry,
right.
for whatever reason. So let me just read it. It's not that long. Okay. Okay, this was February 11th at 3:17. In the land of after loss, grief takes its own path, its own time, own music. Nobody says to me anymore, "You walk fast." Burning upside down flags, everything in an uproar. I line up behind 2 pickup trucks to get the car washed. When I open my window to access the ticket machine, my nose fills with the smell of diesel. Can't imagine what it smells like in Ottawa these days, where the air quality is worse than Mexico City's. Somebody's drawn a few squiggles and a caulk on the bench where I sit to gaze at the Columbia. The bench has a plaque memorializing a couple, their names, and an admonishment by Maya Angelou. Speak to humankind today. Come to me here beside the river. Beside this one, the slowly thawing surface of the ground unwraps desiccated orange peels, and a train sounds its horn. Snow turned to ice, turned to slush, allows for safe purchase now, and always the river flowing past, eddies sketching circles on the surface, bufflehead ducks taking off and landing on the slick black runway, runaway, run so fast you can't catch me. The thing about the caulk is I can't tell which end is which. Maybe it's not a caulk at all, but a depiction of a small, squat alien keeping its eye on things in case we Earthlings annihilate each other in the coming weeks. Something I never thought likely until recently. So much turmoil in the world. You'd think we'd have learned by now how to get along. Feb 26th at 2:50 in the afternoon. At one of the protests I was watching on TV, one woman bore a sign that said, "Pfizer hurts my uterus." The path that leads to the labyrinth is passable, just. Snow the color of blackened sugar on creme caramel, brick hard underfoot, sound of water lapping on shoreline rocks, muzzled by the baseline coming from somebody's boombox. Ribbons of ice crust stones at my feet, crust the stones at my feet. I sit on one of the bigger ones, still cold. Mom would say I'd get cystitis. She always said that if anyone sat on anything not sun-warmed or plugged in. But it's bearable for the moment. The sweet, fresh air, waterfall, float and dive, the sun a brave promise in the western sky. I tread carefully to get here. Much of the path a luge run for the elderly or infirm, just waiting for me to slip. For the first time since before snow, I walk through the forest, a new deadfall caught between 2 trees beside the remains of a pit house. Always something falling down in this world. New buds present themselves on trees and bushes while the river, always the river, slides by carrying news from the north to its other home in the south. I expect someday there will be conflict over this river, and I don't mean the treaty. Water, commodity of necessity, even as it's pumped into reservoirs to feed golf courses and desert fountains. I ponder this after dinner when I'm cleaning up, pour half a glass of undrunk water down the sink. I do my part in the recklessness. Remember my friend's story of when she lived in Cameroon, where she had to walk 20 minutes to a cistern to get water, carry it back in a bucket to where she was staying. Water for washing, for cooking, for everything. She'll never take water for granted again. Such fools, we humans, so certain of our right to be here. Half a world away, a man with a dream of conquering everything calls the shots. People are dying. Calls the shots without climbing into a tank or pulling a trigger himself. His preferred focus, a button or a code or whatever it is, the pushing of which could lead to impossible destruction. Never mind Hiroshima, forget Nagasaki, they happened long ago and weapons have only improved since. While in Canada, the instigators of a convoy cobbled together to demand freedom can't get bail. One wonders how their freedom was impacted, given the air horns and hot tubs and bouncy castles they brought. Oh my. I wonder about their histories. Were they beaten as children, abused by the church? Who hurt them? How often? Somebody must have. Were their mouths washed out with soap? Were they bullied in the playground? After school, no one watching, called names, laughed at? Was it like that for the short guy in Russia too? That's sort of how I go.
Excellent. Excellent. So much richness in there. Beautiful. So many notes I took down as you were talking. John Brem weighing his hat on the scale, which is just to think of that image. My dad said he knew how I could lose 10 pounds of ugly fat. And I said, I am not cutting off my head. So he estimated my own at 10 pounds. By the way, John Brem was a tip by Ingrid Bruck. She was the one who saw the tricycle article and sent it to me. And we had that exercise that was based on that. So thank you, Ingrid, for being part of my extended brain on that. You get credit for that. Springtime in the Rockies by Mo Bandy, Simon and Garfunkel. April came.
Come she will.
April come she will. Okay. And I will add those. I should make these playlists as some of them. I should make collaborative. I think you can do. Oh, of course, you're not on Spotify. Are you back on Spotify?
No, I had to do all,
Yeah.
Plug it all into
I get it.
Apple Music. They're so
This-
much better.
Yeah, I
They're
know.
so much more honorable.
Well, I mean, honor between corporations is something we could have a discussion about. Did you notice in the CD right the way she's spacing on the same line, how she does that? I found that very interesting. The poem hunting exercise. I think one of the critical things about this is, when you do it exactly like you get a title, like John Ashbery, like Eileen Miles said, John Ashbery said, you get a title and you go out and you get that poem. It's an intention. It's a setting of an intention. And to me, that is so powerful, not just in the poem, but in the life. How do we set an intention? I set an intention a week ago Friday with this jazz trio that I would have clarity of speech, that my work would be transformational, that I would have synergy with the band. I was doing all this because I was nervous as fuck. I don't know why. I've played with Jim's band before. I haven't edited the video yet. I have to do that. And it's going to be a post that'll go to the list, and we'll go on Thursday morning. It goes to the CPL list. But I'll be damned if it didn't work beyond my wildest imagination. The band played the tune they were playing, and they just were spontaneously composing. And this tune that they played and the attention that was in the room, I was surprised by it. Really stunning. So creating that intention is really, really critical. I love that there are buffleheads in your poems, and we have buffleheads here. And there's so many other things, beautiful lines I wanted to mention. If you had it up on the screen, it'd be easier to have remembered them. But Pfizer hurts my uterus. I can see you going back in your next poem and starting with that. And speaking of corporations, What does Spotify do to other parts of your body? What does Apple do? What is this? What does Gmail do? I mean, in this era of surveillance capitalism, number one. Number two, bringing it back to our own human bodies. I mean, talk about the notion of proprioception, and more of that is coming, by the way. I've really engaged, and I continue to send out feelers to different places to see if I can find out more because of this class. So I think that's what you ought to do. You ought to write down that start, or maybe hunt that one, or just sit down and write it next time you've got a chance to write, and maybe other corporations will fit in as well. I remember Michael McClure saying something after one of the gigs. We brought him into town. Actually, he said it during the gig. He said, man, the vocabularies that kids have today, they are amazing, much bigger than when I was a kid, except most of the words they know are brand names. So kind of tailors it, or it frames it. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
The rock, do I want to know the name of the rock by the river that you go to? I mean, after the benches.
I haven't named it yet, but I
Okay.
will take that. I'll get back to you.
Maybe you could bring it up a little.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go Ann, Skylar, and Tim, and then we're working our way up this way on my screen. So there we have. Oh, and Ann, I probably got to share screen to get your stuff on it. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And which one would you like first?
I'll let you choose.
Uh-oh. All right. Oh, I should probably put
I'm
that.
gonna talk for a minute first, so you have time to
Good.
choose.
Good. And you didn't, did you? One of them, you have the key of, oh, you probably have, do you have it listed as, yeah, here it is. Okay, go ahead. You may go. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so like Diana's new. Is anybody else new today?
Well, Joe, but he's not, Joe's going to be lurking. He's taking the course, but he's not taking it on the same day.
Yeah, well, welcome, Diane.
Thank you.
Diana.
Nice to have you join us. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, my name is Anne. My current home is on Vancouver Island in the Englishman River watershed. I've lived here 20 years. That's the longest time I've ever lived anywhere. So where do I come from? I come from, let's see, and will I start backwards or forwards? I'll start forwards. I was almost born in Cuba. And then I lived in Cuba for a year, and then I lived in Mexico for 2 years, until I was 2. And then I lived in Argentina till I was 9. I spoke Spanish before English, and then I lived in Australia till I was 18. And then I went to Vassar, so I moved to New York. My parents were still in Australia. Then I stayed in the States and went to grad school in University of California. And then I married a Canadian guy, different one from the one I'm married. Well, the one I'm married to now is Irish, but I married to a Canadian guy and came to Canada in 1971. And I guess I've been here pretty much ever since, but I started out on the East Coast. Yeah, so that was a long time ago, about 1971. And yeah, so I started out in Nova Scotia and stayed there a long time. And now I live on Vancouver Island. So that's me. Shall I get on to
anything about
critique?
anything in the course materials you want to
yeah, I just so love spring and all that. It's the second time you put it in our reading. I love how he kind of just sort of doesn't seem to care about the difference between poetry and prose, and just sort of moves just so comfortably from one to another, you know. And I think somebody else mentioned how chilling it is that he lived in a time just before us, just like ours. I wrote some notes. Let's see, I did write some notes about that because I thought it was really chilling. Yeah, spring and all that. 1922, the eerie parallels, poets searching for a language, emerging from a pandemic, frontal in their awareness, a terrible war in Europe. And I thought it was interesting that Williams, in a way, he kind of chose bioregionalism, because everybody in his country, I mean, T.S. Eliot really felt that they had to go to Europe. I mean, even everybody felt they had to go to Europe to sort of become recognized as real writers. And he said, no, I can do it right here in my place, you know? So I thought that was really interesting. But, and I thought the parallels, he was talking about how spring and all that could never really be recognized for its true greatness because, you know, it was in the shadow of the wasteland. But there's interesting sort of parallels with the wasteland because in both cases, they're writing about young people emerging into the modern world and having a lot of intuitions about what it was about as writers, but really having no idea about what their lives were going to be like and what people's lives were going to be like. And as they imagine them, I mean, there's whole sections of the wasteland where Eliot does that very differently, you know, using Sanskrit and using German and stuff like that. And Williams just using American English does these, you know, amazing imagined and critiques really of the war, of society. And I thought it was interesting as he imagined, you know, what modern man would be like. And then here we've got John from Nebraska. How many years later, having these very meditative, not ego-centered reflections into himself and what life is all about. In a way, it's almost like he's answering Carlos Williams and saying, well, actually, this is what a modern guy is like, William. It's me, you know. I thought that was kind of an interesting kind of back and forth. It's too bad that Williams couldn't hear it, you know. I loved, and I'm going to jump now to John. I loved his wit, very gentle and just incredibly humble wit. Just the lack of ego, just complete lack of ego was just profound. And his compression, and there was just a lovely gentleness going through his work. And I had a personal feeling about it too, because my people, my mother and father, you know, were born and raised in Nebraska. As much as I traveled in all the places I just told you about, I used to go to Nebraska. It was like my only anchor in a way, because I would go there and visit my grandparents. And as much as he struggled to find beauty there, I fell in love with the beauty of the land. And I have written about it. And I'm lucky too, because my father comes from maybe some of you are from near there, from Southwest Nebraska, that little sliver that's just in between Missouri and Kansas. And it's rolling hills there. It's not flat. And it's just gorgeous. It really is like paradise. The topsoil is about 20 feet deep and the Missouri River goes through there. And it's just gorgeous. But anyway, it was nice hearing him talk about his struggle to write about Nebraska, because you know, I could relate to that. I love the music. Thank you for these music about spring, and thank you for giving us a peek at Fiona Tinway Lamb's poem, and thank you for your poem about Keith. And I didn't get to the CD right.
What did you think about her introduction to?
Oh yeah, I love the introduction. Is that what it was? Is that all it was? There weren't any poems by her? No, I thought the introduction was great.
There was the donut shop, the person shot in front of the donut shop. There was that poem.
Okay.
But
yeah.
the introduction,
all right. No,
the introduction.
I
is
love the
Spring It All.
introduction.
Yeah, it's a new introduction.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, on to your poem then, right?
Okay. Well, which one do you want me to read?
How about
Okay,
that
I'll
one?
start with Ukraine. Well, you know, it's just so hard to write about war. And then it's also so hard not to write about war.
Mhm.
I've been following it very closely in the news, and it's especially hard for me because I'm a journalist and I write my journalism and I write my poetry very differently. So when something like this comes up, I have to kind of decide how I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm looking for the first page. I guess I can follow yours because you're not going to go too fast this time, right?
I promise not to go too fast.
Okay. So I guess there's going to be more notes on Ukraine. So this I actually wrote at the beginning. It's getting harder actually to write about. Notes on Ukraine, Kiev first days. 1. In flames, unbidden satanic night rains blood. Survivors also of a killer. Old people take shelter in unheated subways, surrender their frail bodies to hard concrete floors. How quietly they line up their blankets, waiting and waiting for the shelling to end. They can't see the terrible sky from down there, the exploding missiles, death aimed from unseen planes. A bright orange mushroom cloud lights up the black sky. By dawn, a determined young woman is out, sweeping the broken glass in what's left of a square, her body unprotected. Behind her, a bombed out block of apartments, black smoldering cars. We will fight back and we will win, she says, smiling into the TV cameraman's lens. Now the whole world will know her face and have to know how will her young life be, how long or how short. 2. Everybody, think about the sacrifices we are prepared to make and how we live out our aging life. Think about that and beware. An army of stout, aging Ukrainian women is not making soup. They have Googled instructions for Molotov cocktails to kill Russian invaders, their weapons hidden in straw bales out by the cow. If the city is occupied, the cocktails will be tucked inside shopping bags, under shawls, every old lady a potential assassin. I am Russia's target number 1, said Zelensky. My family is target 2. Saboteurs tasked with his murder. He will not leave for safe ground. Nor does the woman in a white pom-pom wool cap and black jacket caught on video in the Kherson region. The woman who walked up to 2 well-armed Russian soldiers and handed them sunflower seeds for their graves, saying, "You'll need these. Go home." Also, get the fuck out of my country. 3. How she puts to shame so many grown men in my own country, and women too. The ones who started out supporting Putin and maybe still do. The ones who seem afraid of a call in the middle of a night. I don't know how else to explain their cold-blooded obedience to a wannabe strongman. I'm talking about those rich men and women, senators, congressmen, who refuse to protect our democracy. A fiery orange mushroom death cloud shines bright on their actions now. Who knows what will be exposed and who will be the sweepers of the glass?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, your journalism background served you very well, and your poetry background is also very evident. It's beautiful to see the merger of those two things.
Do you think I managed to do that?
Yeah, I do. And I want to point out some places where I thought it really shined. Death aimed from unseen planes, right? I mean, that's exactly what happened. But there's that very near rhyme there that is, it's not ironic in the kind of cheap ironic sense. But the near rhyme there only brings out a sort of counterpoint, a beauty in describing this horrible thing. And it's very effective for me. Sweeping the broken glass in what's left of a square, to me. I know it's the town square, but we also can imagine it just as as a rectangular shape. And I love that. And I've seen the pictures or videos of people sweeping glass, and it's like,
It's also the windows.
yeah, exactly. What's left of the square. Yeah. Then is an army of stout, aging Ukrainian women is not making soup. Oh, I love that. They have Googled instructions for Molotov cocktails to kill Russian invaders. This is all kind of journalism, but still works. They're hidden weapons, or their weapons hidden in the straw bales out by the cow. Fuck, that's just so beautiful to have that. And then there was one other, well, the other one was, well, there are many, but you'll need, this one. And I remember that story, handing them sunflower seeds for their grave, saying you'll need these. That's just, you don't have to invent this stuff. You just have to write it down
No,
when you read
I
it in the
know.
news and just put it in the poem. Go home.
Yeah.
And then it's so great that the page break is at this moment, because we get also get the fuck out of my country. It's just so the word fuck is just so effective in that moment.
Yeah.
And the way it comes after the page break was completely artful. So those are some of the highlights. I could say more, but I'll just leave it at that. I don't know, maybe you want to stop there.
Yeah, I think I will. I'll
Yeah,
save the next one for next week.
I think that's a good idea. You don't pick up the mic and you say, okay, now for my second poem.
No,
You don't do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I also come from a journalism background. I don't think I had the same kind of journalistic accomplishments that you did, or skill that you did. But I understand the feeling of, how do I take that? Here's what happened and make it a poem. It's a difficult thing. I thought it was very effective.
Right, when you're dealing with the truth, right?
Yeah. But you got to pick out those moments. Like Linda picked out that moment of the found poetry visors. You got it. When you hear that shit, you got to write it down. So, many things about being a writer is writing it down, seeing it and writing it down. That's what the American sentences are for me in many ways. And then I can go back to them later because they're handy. So beautiful, Anne. Anne, you were going to be the Poems for Peace poet this month, but Adelia is thinking that maybe an open mic would be better, but I think you still should read that poem. I think you should read
That one.
Poem. Yeah, I think you should read
So
that.
I've been pushed on to the next month, right?
I think that's the way it's going. We're going to hear from Adelia. I hope. She doesn't look like she's doing so well.
She's putting a thumb up.
She got a thumb up. So, all right. Thanks, Anne. Beautiful.
Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah. We're going to go Tim, Ingrid, and Susan. I'm eyeing the time for those of you who, like me, are bio break centric participants, and pounding the water because I'm behind on my water. Tim, did you get my card? You got my card. I think we talked about this.
Yeah, the card arrived. I think, and I haven't created the new one, but I did have a cigar today, so I was thinking of you. My insurance company allows me a few tobacco incidents every couple of months, I think. That's what I'm claiming. I grew up in the Midwest, Diana. Born in South Dakota, but I was East River. You West River people. That's Indian territory. I don't know about that. Northern South Dakota and Minnesota before I moved to Texas, and I've been in Texas ever since. We call our home here Rancho Chaotic. backs up to a beautiful green belt where there is an incredible construction project of a federal trail, 10 feet wide. The first part I told you guys about was 10 inches thick, but I watched him pour 4 feet the other day with this. Somebody's making a ton of money because they had the brand new Mack vehicle that pumps on the huge crane, and there's a guy with a little remote control, looks like your kid's gaming console. He's sitting there, and it made an incredible sound. I wanted to start a band with him because it had this voomp, voomp, voomp as it pushed the concrete through the tube. But that's where I live, Austin, Texas.
Are we going to be hearing about that later? Are we going to?
I have not written that poem yet, but I do have some notes on it. I did something else, kind of inspired by John. Wow. You know, of course, I've told people before, love a poem where the title's longer than the poem itself. That wins me over every time. So funny, but once again, feeding my world of this project up in Boston, because these are all the things that we're attempting to teach people, how not to be run ragged by our habitual thoughts. Your own tedious thoughts, self-generating. Get past the worthlessness of worries, dreams, and plans. The truly, I think I've listened to it 3 times. I really
The interview, the whole interview.
Yes,
Wow.
at least twice complete. Maybe I just went back and picked up parts and stuff because there was so much. I'm telling you, this is feeding my project. He could be our consultant. The temporary nirvana, the idea of temporary nirvana, that sacred pause of stopping momentum of the mind. That
Mind like a salivary gland.
yes,
Secreting thoughts.
not to be swept up in our habitual reactions. Oh, and love, because it's something that you go back to often, the Jack Spicer, the poet is a time mechanic, not an embalmer, which I've always loved.
I worry sometimes I sound like a broken record.
No, it's good to hear it come up. And then also you guys laughed together in such a fabulous way. Also, it was really a great interview.
Upon turning 4, that was nope. Paul, you said 4.
Yeah,
That's a harder poem to write. Got my finger out of my nose and I wrote a poem.
no, it was hilarious. And he has such a quirky, funny take on life. Really great stuff. I didn't get to the William and Carlos Williams. I did request it at my public library, so I will get my hands on that.
Points for you for going to the library.
Yeah. Oh no, I love the library. Playlist was so great. You know, I'm wrapped up in this Boston show, so I had to laugh because all the cover tunes of the same song. I have just sent this playlist. The song 16 Tons will be an important part of at least the rehearsal process. And I sent, 15 versions of 16 Tons to my choreographer and other actors and collaborators.
I think it's the weight of the trail next to your house now, actually.
Oh man, it's getting big. Oh, love the video. I kind of lost my place on my notes here. Playlists, Thai Forest Master. I'm just going to go to, so I wrote something for my dancers and much of it might be lifted from John Brown. I don't know. If you hear things that he said, that's where I stole them. Because I was really feeling it at the time. But I also have to say, Linda and Anne, you guys, and so many other people, the places you're going with this work, I'm afraid to go. I think that's part of it. It's a place where I haven't delved into so deep, and the work is really strong. I would volunteer though to read the C.D. Wright poem, Paul, if we have time, and just because not everybody heard it or didn't.
Go for it.
Let me. I'm going to do mine first because mine would be anticlimactic.
I understand. Never follow children and animal acts. It's just- Not that E.C.D. Wright is a child or an animal, but you get the idea.
Right. An instruction manual for entering a horizon, part 1. Something about the horizon, when well attended, it cries out for a dance that enforces our social sense, a dance that blends the individual back into the community. It should be a dance where you wear your heart as a sleeve and every hollow of a muscle shines as we attempt to turn the world. Sweat rains. We want the rain to sweat down and refresh the earth's skin again and again. We're teasing out our nature here, finding our footing, our limitations, chasing each tangent, endlessly dancing. This is our dance. Part 2 hasn't been written yet.
When you were saying you're going to wear your heart, I thought you were going to say as a spleen. I was getting ready for you to say as a spleen.
That would work, wouldn't it?
Sometimes when the cliches happen, heart, wearing your heart on your sleeve. Sometimes if you just tweak them just a tiny bit, they're loaded with surprise minds. So,
well, so that I attempted that as heart to wear your heart as a sleeve.
right.
I was playing with that. I was hoping that would work.
It's like when I say to Bhakti, "Are you laughing at me?" And she said, "I am not laughing at you. I'm laughing about you." So this is slightly different. All right, Tim, you want to do the CD right while you're?
Yes.
While you're
Do you have it? I can bring it up on my phone. I thought I had it ready, but
I'm about as fast as the next guy, but I was there at the page not found of the Marianne Moore poem, but I can go to workshops and LARF too. It's nice only teaching one class. Thank you, Diana, for coming over on Sunday night, because it's so much easier. And if I scroll down, there's CD Wright, CD Wright poem. Here we go. So, and I'm going to make it a little bigger on the screen because it looks kind of small. Maybe that's just me and my refusal to wear eyeglasses. I think just about everybody else is wearing it. Almost everybody else is wearing eyeglasses.
I read this out loud over and over to myself is why I.
All right. You're on, brother.
Feels like it needs it. From rising, falling, and hovering. In front of a donut shop, someone's son is shot dead. A witness on condition of anonymity. A slow, open, vulgar mouth drawing on a cigarette. In a face once called forever young, now to be known as never a man. Gone to the world of the working and the
prevaricating,
and I had to look at prevaricating of warring, a world of drywalling, of lousy test scores, of fishing from a bridge on a brilliant afternoon, belt buckle blown undone. Recollect reading to her boy, reading to him in bed, overcome herself with the sleep as if drugged or slugged, then jabbed up again. Come on, keep reading, don't stop, don't ever stop, like she was saying. Beauty she cannot marry the beast. And tonight, as on all those other rose-scented eves, he stumbles, the beast, he stumbles from beauty's empty chamber. In agony, he goes in agony, the fur in his fingers, smoky. Until it's her boy, he is the one exclaiming, yes, yes, he will marry the beast. He will marry the beast until he is the one who conks out. As a light pole struck by a drunken car, and suddenly it's raining like plastic. When she stumbles at last from the room, he's the one who shakes himself awake and yells, protect me? And she's the one who promises, exclaiming, yes, yes, she will. I swear if it kills me, I will. as once the mother of the forever young shot in front of the donut shop must have sworn, as if it killed her, she will. A boy so quiet, a report heard from his kin, you wouldn't even notice him on your electric bill. Over there, it's a different world, desperate to be rejoined to this one.
Where was the line? Where was the line I'm looking for? There it is. Recollect reading to a boy, reading to him in bed. Holy shit. Oh man, that gets me. Ella was up in the middle of the night last night. She had a stomach problem. So I was reading her last night. Anyway, it just kills me. Thanks, Tim, for that reading.
Ah,
You know, one of the things I want to point out about this poem is if you attempt to take out the line breaks, it's not chopped up prose. See? It's going to throw you off if you try and chop this, if you try and reassemble this as if it were chopped up prose. That's beautiful. And I love those, the spaces in the same lines. That's a great way to do it. Fuck the commas. Nicely done, Tim.
yeah, no, that was truly, I thought that was beautiful work.
Yeah. Yep.
Much in tune with what some of you folks are kind of creating, that type of deep,
Yeah.
emotional. Yep.
I screwed up because somebody changed, so the boxes changed around, but I'm still going to go Ingrid, Susan, and Skylar. And we're getting close to it. Who needs a break right now? Is there somebody who needs a break? No, we're doing okay. Okay. Ingrid, hello.
Hello. I read through the things, but you know, this Ed Saunders that Diana talked about,
Mhm.
I couldn't find it. First of all, I should introduce myself.
Yep.
I was born in the Catskill Mountains on the east of the Hudson River in a country area. And then I lived all over the place. And finally, I've retired and settled here in Lancaster in Pennsylvania, so I can be near grandkids. And I've got two granddaughters up in Reading. It's about an hour away. And I've spent last Friday night, and I spent over and took care of the girls. It's kind of good to be near your grandkids. It's really a wonderful thing. They were like a gift. It was like when my cousin was becoming a grandmother, a great grandmother, I became a first-time grandmother. So they're little kids, and it's a joy. I enjoyed the readings. I am moved by what's going on in the world, just like everybody else. That poem that I wrote and shared already about the wind blowing in the war, I sent it to Verse Virtual and accepted it. So that was nice. And I didn't try to explain anything. It was just all show. And the Spring and All and the John Brehm, they're the same way in terms of just seeing the broken glass in the alley that William Carlos Williams would write about. And in Spring and All, it was all the rose, and then the rose with the copper, and getting to the red wheelbarrow. That was such a surprise in that book that came out of it. It was really kind of amazing. And I love John Brehm. I loved him. In Nebraska or wherever you are, you can find beauty if you look for it and you let it reveal itself. And he said the same thing about his students. And I love that interview. Just like Tim, he listened to it 3 times. I only listened to it twice, but it was fun. But you know what? The Ed Saunders piece that you talked about, Diana, I never figured out or found that. I had Is
I'm
there
gonna
a
go
link
back
or
to the,
something?
yeah, I'm gonna go back to the, so here's, okay, so here's the whole thing.
Where
Project,
was,
so,
it-
so this is the page.
yeah,
First of all, look at that. The sunrises are now
it's
north of that building.
gorgeous.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that great? And there's,
That's
so,
outside your window.
yeah, and Bhakti's morning candles got in there.
Oh,
Yeah, she lights candles every morning. We sit down, she drinks coffee. I often drink matcha and we play Wordle. We lost the other day.
which one did you lose?
We lost Brian
Okay.
because smart ass here thought it was urine. Because it was our last guess. And we didn't think, Brian, I put in urine because we figured you hadn't been used. All right, so here's how it's got its name. You guys know that, but maybe Diana needed that. Creating a work projective goes to projective verse. It goes to a reading of projective verse where you can see it, the text on the screen. Organic, some notes on organic form. Serial, and that's, I have the link to the Gemini GEL Ruined Cathedral piece on seriality. Impersonal, and that was on the Tim Dean essay about Gary Snyder and how it relates to postcards. Personal mythology, postcard impersonality. A saturation job. You know what? That shouldn't be the same. Is that? No. Personal mythology is the personal mythology link. Then the saturation job is Olson. Multi-decade research project is Ed
That's what I
Sanders.
missed.
right
That's what
there.
I missed. I need to go back and do that.
That's all right.
Because, boy, Diana, you made that sound wonderful. And I've done all the rest. I listened to that plastic. That was really lovely, lovely work
Yeah.
that you gave us, Adia. Thank you. I listened to that twice. So it was just a good week. And thank you to all of you. I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm just enjoying what you're giving us, like Linda and Anne and all of you. Thank you. That's it for me.
Okay.
I don't need a lot of time
All
tonight.
right. That's all right. Well,
That CD Wright was new. It just made me remember, like working in the library and how people will pray, like when you're an illegal alien, you're carrying your money on you, and a man was murdered right out in front of my library that I was a director of. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. And it was probably another Mexican or Guatemalan or from El Salvador or who knows where. But people know that you're carrying your money, and it's a horrible thing to make murder at a donut shop or in front of a library. And then they make like at the telephone pole, they'll put up all make it into a white cross on the sidewalk.
Right.
But it's sad because the life is gone and there's no getting it back. So it's a sad time we're living through, and I'm enjoying everybody's work, and thank you.
somebody watching the Andy Griffith show behind you, Ingrid.
Andy Griffith show? No, that's my husband whistling.
Okay.
It's coming through the door. And when I mute myself, you won't hear my husband whistling.
Can you just let us listen to his whistling for a moment? Do you know what tune he's whistling?
No, but it's a folk song. It's just common stuff. But he'll do symphonies. He does all kinds of things.
I'm putting him on the next playlist. Give him some warning about that. Thank you, Ingrid. That was nice.
Thank you.
Anytime a man is whistling, he is not angry. He's a happy guy. And that's a beautiful thing. All right. Anyone in need of a bio break now? I don't need one, but I just want to check. Do I? No? Okay. It's Susan and then Skylar. And after Skylar, we're going to have a break. I think that's fair. But I mentioned Skylar earlier and then I pushed her back. So Susan your lighting is not the best, but we can, something happened when you waved. It got a little better. Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
think I'm blocking the light back there. Oh,
Ah,
that's what it is.
uh-huh.
Hi,
Your
everyone.
windows.
It's nice to see you. I'm Susan, and I live in Oregon.
Close to the
in
Sutherland, Oregon Starbucks.
Yeah. I guess it's a highlight.
Is it open? Did they open it yet?
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't
Probably
go
the
there.
most modern building around. Okay. I'm in the Umpqua River Basin, which is in southwestern Oregon. And it's a system, it's a watershed system that starts up in the Cascades, not at Crater Lake or Diamond Lake, but at Lamolo Lake, which is a reservoir. So I looked it up, and it actually, there's a creek where it does start out of Maidu Lake, which then goes into Lamolo Lake, the reservoir, and then becomes the North Umpqua and things. So my parents live, I'm a caregiver of my parents. You know, they bought their house here when I was in high school. And then I moved away. But before we moved here, we lived in lots of places. I was born in Wichita, and we lived in Boston. We lived in Oregon. We lived in Nome, Alaska. We lived in Reno and on an Indian reservation. In Nevada, we lived in Missoula. I was in 7th and 8th grade in Missoula. Went to Rattlesnake grade school. And we lived in Germany. I was an exchange student in Finland and in Germany. Lived in Eugene and Boulder, and then other places in Colorado and Hawaii for a while, long time, long time. And then back here to Oregon. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. When I say that big long list, then I'm tired. I want to do anything more.
Studied with Ed Dorn.
Oh yeah.
You want to say that?
And yeah. Oh, and I was just remembering in Rattlesnake grade school in Missoula how a poet came to our school, and she was sitting in this little in a classroom, and then we could go in, or I'm sure our English teacher took us in to hear her read her poems, and that was Patricia Godeke, who taught, I guess, for a long time in Missoula at the university. But she was one of the first sort of poets I heard read, you know, sort of formally, I think, in 7th or 8th grade. Anyway, I was remembering that. You know, about best friends and things like that. My best friend lives back in Missoula now, and I'm still in contact with her. She moved away and then moved back too. I guess that's quite common. You know, you move away, move back later to take care or be around your parents or take care of them. So I'm doing, and I wrote a little bit. The purr. Oh, okay. The purr. I can hear every sigh from the mountain, every smooth waiting. Speak, mountain. What do you say? The purr is a miniature tombstone, a small worked piece of marble with moss, a stacked up avalanche, rubble from the bomb that killed my grandparents, my young uncles and aunts. Their memories turned to ash, to static, that I hear now from the strange tower, from the light blinking on top of the mountain. Its purr distinct, a lion deep in the center, protected, eyes flashing in the darkness of its carved out walls, where it waits, purring at nobody, at everybody, at me, at the log trucks, at the rain, the fog from the trees, their clear cuts, their empty spaces where the sky reaches down to touch small growing things, also reaching round and up, to curve into the purrs, the smallest, cradling their curls and waves of their tiny boats floating like tombstones on the grass. And I thank you. Oh, I got as far as
Beautiful.
spring and all. And like Ingrid, when I got to the red wheelbarrow, it's like, oh, I was so surprised and so pleasantly surprised. You know, that's kind of a moment of normalcy in that spring and all.
Moment of
Wow, that was so
moment of familiarity.
familiarity.
Yeah.
That, yeah, stream of consciousness, writing. That's what I thought. This is another looked, you know, it looks different than what I think of as stream of consciousness, but in poetry. But wow, it's exciting to look at that again. I hadn't remembered all that from when I read it like 30 years ago. So happy to read that.
I forget Duncan's response to calling his work stream of consciousness. It was bigger than that. And I think Williams, that's a good way of describing it, but I think it's bigger than that too. But I'm glad that you got that. And I'm remembering the part of the introduction that C.D. Wright did, where she said something about how he hated revising or something like that, which is true.
He hated what? Advice?
Revising.
Oh, revising.
Yeah.
You probably didn't have much time.
Yeah, and maybe it's because he didn't have much time and felt he'd rather write a poem than to, you know, hack at one he'd already written. And I think he just developed that way. And when he read Projector Verse, he said, "This is so right on. I'm putting a big hunk of it in my autobiography." His autobiography. He's got Projector Verse in it. So I think that really says a lot about how he felt that Olson had really nailed it. So.
Yeah, that's interesting how the red wheelbarrow part, I wonder if that was, you know, extracted out and then it stood alone.
Yes.
Or, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a little like Celan in that the Death Fugue. It's like he was so sick of people anthologizing it that he didn't want it anthologized anymore. And I'm sure Williams may have had a similar feeling about that and about the this is just to say, I've eaten the plums that are in the icebox and you're probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were so
well, it's just interesting to see how, you know, that's as much as we can handle is the red wheelbarrow, and or general public, or, you know, readers of poetry, like that's enough. I mean, spring and all is yeah, you know, it's so much more than that of course.
Right.
But how you know, that small piece, how, you know, it explodes on its own, you could say, in a good way.
Yeah.
Use the ball metaphor. Oh my goodness.
That's all right. We get it. You know, you know, the other thing about we get, you know, when we think about war and we hear your poem about the the young uncles and, killed, we remember about your parents and affected by World War II, the last big European conflagration, and it makes it more real for us when there's someone we know whose life has been affected by it. So you putting it in there in the poem, and it's not that you put it in there, but it came up for you organically. It seemed very organic. It makes those of us who know your work a little bit better a deeper feeling of empathy when we hear that. At least for me, that's one of the things that went through my mind, And so, and I just love that I got a chance to meet you, and then I know those mountains that you're talking about. That's the real hard part of our I-5. When you're going south, it's like, oh shit, all the twisty, you got to slow down to 45, and you're up there way high, and that's your territory, and that you're connecting very deeply with it, to the fact that you're having a real intimate relationship with the place, it seems to me. And I don't, I mean intimate in the deepest sense of it. You're getting to know it very well, and it's coming through. You're developing a personal relationship with it, and that's the most beautiful thing. Who pointed out about Williams being a bioregionalist? I guess it was Anne who said that. Yeah, he was connected to place. That was part of what gave him his power. That's part of what we can learn from. That's part of what Joanne Kiger took when she started writing about Bolinas. And when she said to me, I think you're writing a Patterson for slaughter. I mean, that's a direct line to Williams. And it's kind of humbling to think that. And we all have that opportunity to choose who our literary ancestors are, and I try and throw so much at everybody that somewhere it's going to stick for you, and you're going to hit a vein. I've already seen it with everybody in here, so I know it works, and I know my method. I'm just reading. I'm going to deploy this piece about Olson that was read at Modern Language Association conference in Louisville by Patrick James Dunnigan. And he's looking at Olson through Joanne Kiger. And it's just so beautiful to see that, and to see him talk about Olson's teaching method, and how it seems to be very similar to what I'm doing. Show people how to live the life of a poet. Don't give them prompts, although there are things in this class that you can consider prompts, but I think they're deeper than that. And I think you're really getting it. And it's really beautiful to hear that. The mountain purring. The chat's already at 34. So I know there's some people have picked up good lines from it and have put it in there. Thank you.
Yeah, that juxtaposition of what you generally associate purring with, and then moving from that to the mountain and trying to imagine the mountain purring, and then thinking volcanic and thinking abstract. That was very fresh, really nice.
That's a good word. That's a good word for what it is. Yeah, thanks, Diana.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Skylar, I'm sorry I said your name and then pushed you back. Please forgive me. Here you are.
Of course. I'm Skylar. I am right now in Wichita, Kansas, and that happens to be where I was born. I lived a couple of years after grad school. I lived a couple of years on the East Coast, outside of Boston, and one long summer on Martha's Vineyard. But then I came home. And as far as this week's opportunities, I was like Tim. I kept going back to the John Bram interview. I listened to that thing at least 3 times, and man, where it talks about the poem allows us to pour ourselves entirely into the act of noticing, and comparing that to Alfred Lord Whitehead's concept of prehension. But what really was sticky for me was Ian McGilchrist, and I wasn't familiar with Ian McGilchrist at all. But this idea that the way we perceive works of art is more like the way we perceive other humans than the way we perceive other things. And they were talking about that's the way we engage with the poem is more like the way we engage with a person. And I tried to do a little dive into McGilchrist to find out, to trace that in his writings. And I haven't done it yet, but it looks like he does a lot with right brain, left brain, and neuroscience to kind of back up his points. So that's definitely a rabbit hole I will visit again. What it spoke to me most directly about, I'm finishing up a project where I'm doing 12 works of art. They're portraits of my house done in the style of 12 local artists. And because the nature of the project is having me look at whatever piece of art I own from that local artist a lot. And so this idea of that I was engaging with those works of art like a person rang true for me. And I think that's why that idea has stuck with me so much. That when I'm looking at those paintings, it's not just what the paintings represent, it's how they represent it and what choices the artist made and what choices I'm making to try and replicate not the painting, but the spirit of the painting. So that was just such a powerful interview for me. I did kind of do a quick run by Spring and All. I need to spend more time with that. And I also need to spend some more time with C.D. Wright. And I remember when C.D. Wright died, and I remember thinking that was a man. So shame on me. I should have known more about that poet. So I wrote a couple of poems.
Are you going to show us one of the artworks? Are you going to?
Oh, do you want to see that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, you do.
I can do that. I can show you where that's going. Yeah. Whew. I think I can. Let's see if this will work. Okay. I'll show you a couple of them. Okay. This is right. What you're looking at right now is the original artwork by my friend Julie Rippey. And let's see, I can't remember the name she gave to those pieces. So I'm using those, something inspired by those, to make a portrait of my house, which was built in 1914. And this is what that looks like now. So
I hope this doesn't get
Far
taken up.
out,
I hope it doesn't get taken out by
far
the Borg.
Uh-huh.
it might. And just to give you an idea of kind of the range of things I'm working with. This is some work by my friend David Morano, who works in wire sculpting. And this is two birds that he titled, Do You Want to Know a Secret? And I just love what he's able to do. So this is my house portrait done in wire. And my husband, I was doing this on the dining room table because it was too cold to work in the basement. And he came across this one halfway done, and he got all excited, and he had me come downstairs. He goes, I got to show you something. I got to show you something. And he points at it and he says, look, this looks like a house. He thought he was looking at the back of the painting, and I was attaching wire hangers on it, and I had accidentally made a house. I said, honey, it's our house. It was intentional. So anyway, yeah, I'm liking this quite a bit. But that doesn't.
You should write that. You should write that story.
Yeah.
You should write that story.
Yeah.
And you have the visual aid right there. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other part of these, each of these will have paragraphs about the artist, and so it's going to be more than just the paintings. This is
Both Carlton and I really like the house in the Cosmos.
oh yeah, that was, I look at that one now and I go, how did I do that? Because it does really replicate a lot of her technique.
How did you do it?
It's that one was made 100% with acrylic paint and some stints, some round masking going on, and the little white dots were an actual. She had given me a little white pen, and I used those. So I don't know, man. I don't know if I could do it again. Anyway, so the poems. Okay, the first one is called Land Acknowledgement. And it was inspired, there's a newsletter I subscribe to, Indigenous gentleman named Chris Latre. He was talking about land acknowledgements, and I don't know, that kind of pushed me into this. And I was also thinking about Walt Whitman and how inclusive he is. Land acknowledgement. I call together this meeting here in zip code 67208, Zone Improvement Plan, invented by H. Bentley Hahn in 1963. Mr. Zip was drawn by Harold Wilcox in 1964, so let's invite them both. Here in Sedgwick County, named for Major General John Sedgwick, who never set foot here, but was beloved and trusted by his soldiers right up until his last words. They, rebel sharpshooters, couldn't hit an elephant at that distance. And I invite him to join us today, as well as the ancestors of the Kiowa, Wichita, Sioux, Osage, who hunted along these rivers, as well as the Clovis Ice Age hunters 10,000 years ago, who tracked the mastodon whose tusk we dug up when upgrading the Kellogg Overpass in 2005, a highway named for Milo Bailey Kellogg, first postmaster of Wichita. Please join us, Milo. Mastodon look like elephants, I think, so let's invite them too. And 85 million years ago, the plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs, and the giant Mosasaurus, who floated over this land in the waters of the Western Interior Seaway, twisting their 14-foot scaly bodies in the sun, imagining our arrival someday on the heels of families of Clovis, Wichita, Kiowa, and Osage, following the work of Bentley, Harold, Milo, General John, so that this moment we meet and dance and speak on this land, their and our land.
Fantastic. Oh my God. That's remarkable. I love the welcoming people in. And I love that you had Mr. Zip there. I'd forgotten about Mr. Zip.
I love Mr. Zip.
Have you ever drawn Mr. Zip?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How can you not?
Well, because I can't draw. I mean, that's the first. Wow. And so talk about place. Wow. Who else wants to chime in rather than hearing me? Anybody? I love how you have the indigenous languages. Yeah, it is fantastic. CJ, you're right about that.
I love that. Yeah, I love that when the original tribes all show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back to the Clovis.
Yeah. And who knows who that we haven't.
Imagining our arrival someday. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and of course, now I know that I have to write another one, imagining people 500 and 10,000 years in the future and inviting them too.
I think you know the house you're going to take to get to them.
And you might have to write a section that because the land will have changed in that period of time. I mean,
might be underwater.
It might be ocean again.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
but what a great, I'm thinking I would love to use your poem as a cover exercise. I feel like it's something I should do for every place I ever lived.
Can you put it in the chat, Skylar?
Can I put the poem in the chat?
Yeah, could you do that? Would that be okay?
I think I can. Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then there's another short one that was inspired exactly by that interview.
Okay.
The poem, by slowing down is speeding up. On the porch, listening to what we call silence, the thrum of hundreds of tires strumming Kellogg Drive 2 miles from here. Next door, 9-year-old Antonia practices scales, a broken stair-step tune escaping through newly opened screens. Something small scratches the dirt under the porch. For now, I ignore that something and rock in time with Antonia.
Right on. Fantastic. My slowing down is speeding up.
I love that. That was a great interview.
Thanks. I had fun doing
So
it.
delightful.
I drove to Portland that day, conducted the interview, got back in the car, started driving back home, stopped at Burgerville. I had a bean burger and played basketball that night. I was hitting my shot like it was nobody's business. I was crediting the Chinese anti-inflammatory herbs, which made it into a poem. I should probably drag that out. Skylar, the first piece that you read, so there's kind of a serial going with the materials.
Everything is running together now,
Good.
more or less,
Good,
you know,
good,
it's
good.
just all
Good, good, good.
doing its thing.
That's great. That's great news. I love to hear that. I love hearing
So,
that.
Skylar, were any of those references the family references? The names? And any of those names that showed up, were they from your family investigation?
No, because my family wasn't from Wichita until my parents' generation. My family is all from Oklahoma.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There we go. Good question, though.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. God, such great work coming out of this class. Holy shit. And Diana has permission to write a cover of your poem. Is that land acknowledgement?
Sure. Let me,
Okay, good.
while we're on break, I'll figure out how to, we can upload PDFs, right?
Yeah, you just click on that. You go to the chat and you click on the icon. And all right, we'll come back in 4 minutes. It's 5:45 my time. Come back in 4 minutes. I'm going to find my poem that is they throw all the Chinese herbs into, and we'll be back. And Adelia is having internet problems, so she's going to have to watch the tape. So I better pause it right now so we don't have to have so big a thing. 4 minutes. Or I turned it off again or something. So you want me to put on Haibun that other email? You want me to get that up?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go to my email and get rid of that. Okay, two different emails. Okay, that's good. Haibun, yeah, I saw that and I laughed. I didn't look at it in advance of the class because it's been a day. But let me share screen and I'm looking forward to seeing what this is about. Okay, so is this it? Is this it? Hold on. Okay, so if I click on that, but then are you going to be able to, do you guys see the Haibun de la Williams? Are you still seeing my email?
Just your email.
Just the email. Okay, so if I stop share screen and go to, where is it? Where? Mail. Is that my house? Shit. I can't, if I open up, okay, no, I'm not seeing where it is. So I know what it
There
is.
it is. You got it.
Oh, you did see it. Son of a gun. Okay, I'm sorry. So here we go. Firefox. Hi, Bundil. So, hey, can someone read this? I think there's somebody at my door. Just one second.
You could start it, Tim, but you can't move it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Philip's here with the dough for the parking place. All right, did anyone start reading this or did we?
No.
Okay,
No,
here
we can't move it.
that's right. Son of a gun. I should have thought of that. Preface. These Highborn are drawn from Spring It All by William Carlos Williams. During my poetry critique group today, it was suggested that I omit the WCW epigraphs from each, but I thought I'd keep them there. I thought I'd keep them for y'all to see. Carlton. Highborn, Della Williams. 1. Somebody dies every 4 minutes in New York State. From Spring It All, 25. Today, the leaves are falling. Like corpses, they litter the ground, turning with a stirring wind and returning to the ground. Today, I saw the news of the attack on Kiev. Vacant-eyed children and nervous mothers hunkered in dark, dank hallways, praying for light and peace and food. Why, oh, why must it be so always? There is death here, long toothed with bat wings swooping in on silence like a dove. There is also life, for without life, death would be meaningless. I pick up my pen and knit a scarf for peace. Minutes last, then fade, hours and days and years, a solvent for tears. 2. On all sides, the world rolls coldly away. Black orchards, darkened by the March clouds, leaving room for thought. From Spring It All, 3. The winds of March are upon me as I look at the tufted clouds and the now looming shrouds of death, dark and opaque, but still the crocuses and tulips are budding, bringing forth an exuberance, a splendid affair of beauty over chaos. They want not for all that suffering, all that irritable strife. Here there is green, solvency for the Decembers of our mind, our will. March breezes in like a roar, moving us to live. 3. Of an old man who said at the door, sunshine today, for which death shaves him twice a week. From Spring It All, 14. Today the sun is out gloriously. New buds on trees abound, and there is a soft sound, either distant ducks quacking or the whacking of a red-headed woodpecker. Even on cool nights, silence is broken by the pleadings of the hoot owl somewhere in the woods next door. The wise bird hunts in spectacular stillness, alive in spite of death. 8 minutes of sunlight is all that will be enough once our sun dies. Takes 8 minutes for the sun's rays to hit the earth. Is that what that reference is, man?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think about him leaving out the Williams? You agree with this critique group?
I liked it.
No, I think you should keep it in, but maybe it has to look different or something. Maybe it has to have, a lot more white space. Like it has to have its own page. Maybe it's something like that, or maybe it has to be one long line with some slashes to show the line breaks. Maybe it has to, something about it being too much visually stacked on top of,
Yeah.
like the quote and then the prose and then the poem. Maybe it's just too dense at the top or something like that. I would keep it, but
If I was laying it out, I would have it in a smaller font size than your poem.
What about putting it off to the right?
That's the thought too.
Not that. It would have to be.
The right justified. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
smaller.
like the way that looks too.
yeah, those are neat ideas. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mention. There we go. Anyone else want to chime in? I think this, is that the consensus? Do people think?
I liked it.
Yeah,
The right,
got some thumbs
justified.
up. You like the way it was?
I like the right justified.
The right justified, okay. First of all, some beautiful writing there. Carlton. You were inspired? That's far out. That's excellent. I love the homage. At first I laughed and then I was touched by calling it Ivonne de la Williams. I think that's fantastic. You know, one of the cool things about Googling Ivonne de la Serna, there's nothing in the fucking world close to being named something like that. I love how that happens. You know, if I search for Ivonne de la Serna, I'm not getting 4 million hits, right? What did McClure say in Scratching the Beat Surface? The way to the universal is by means of the most intensely personal, right? So, yeah, that's what I think. Far out, Carlton.
As part of introduction, I'm living in Florida now, but I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. So.
Charm City.
And I got a book now, so I don't know, that's reversed now, but.
Diana, did you see that? A Thimble of Time? Did you? Yeah, you got that?
Oh.
He's in Winter Park, Florida. Diana.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your father was a neuroscientist at Johns Hopkins. Is that did I remember that right?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Okay. So there you go.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
As you can tell by my time management skills, Bhakti is in Portland this weekend. She went to see her sister. So yesterday started, I had to get her, we had to leave the house at 6:25 in the morning. I got her to King Street Station. She took the train. Then I was involved in interviews at the Subud House most of the morning. And then I had to rush off and take Ella to lunch with her grandmother because her grandmother helped out. I got an extra. I usually get Ella at noon, but she came in at 12:20. Actually, we met at 1:26 at the Donburi station. Did you?
Who's cooking dinner?
I cooked.
Oh, you ate earlier.
I cooked last night. No, I cooked last night. Cooking dinner tonight. Yeah, I don't know. That is, it did cross my mind to eat yogurt and granola for dinner. I'll be honest with you. It really did. I haven't been cheated today on the chow. So Carlton says the irony is now that I have a neurological condition, my dad was a professor of neurology. So Carlton is the one who pointed that out. We're going to go to KJ and then Laura is going to be our cleanup hitter tonight. Carlton, speaking of hitting it out of the park, thank you very much. I'm glad you got inspiration from this week. And
I just wanted to say that. Oh, I just wanted to say that I thought your poem part of the High Bones sounded. I thought that was the William Carlos Williams part. It sounded so much like William Carlos Williams. And I looked at the top and I'm like, oh no, that's the part. That's the quote.
Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Yeah, far out.
That happened to me too at first.
Yep.
I thought, oh, the italics are the William. Oh no, that's his. Oh no, that's the haiku to the high bun.
That's right. The high of high bun. All right. Beautiful, Carlton. Good to see you, man. All right. From CJ to KJ.
Okay. Somewhere, Paul, is a poem I sent you too.
Yes.
So
I will search for it while you tell us who you are and where you're from.
I am KJ Van de Bechet, and I was born in North Chicago, and then grew up mostly in Seattle area and Southern California around LA.
North Chicago.
North Chicago, the naval base.
Great Lakes Naval Base.
In North Chicago, yeah.
Is that the town that you were born in? North Chicago?
North Chicago.
Unbelievable.
Paul, did you get my reference when I sent you that other poem about the Peace Stone guys?
Out of gang? Are you talking about the gang?
Gangs, yeah.
Yeah, they were. They were to
Yeah.
be feared.
Howard was a member of that at one time.
No shit.
Yes. This man was very interesting. Yeah.
So when people call him an OG, they are not using a metaphor.
Right. Right. That was quite, and I tried to look up a bunch of stuff on them, and they are really a mixed bag.
Yeah. Did he ever fight a Latin king? Well, we can get into this later.
Yeah.
But he's from Chicago.
Howard was, yeah.
That's something.
Yeah.
Is he a White Sox fan?
I don't know where he's from. I know that my husband is a Cubs. Sorry, but
I won't say anything.
that's the way it is.
Because he probably has a gun still. Okay, wait, let me just.
Baseball bat in the back
A
seat.
baseball bat, yeah. All right. I batted leadoff, just to let you know.
Okay, I don't know if he just batted.
Okay, you're gonna do your check. So I'm sorry, I interrupted your check.
That's okay. Anyway, grew up in Seattle, California, then raised my own family up in Bellingham, Washington, near the border, and then retired, whatever that means. Yeah, down here to Arizona, which is not my fault. I blame it all on my husband, because I went totally from the beautiful Pacific Northwest on the west side of Washington to the middle of the Sonoran Desert. So I'm still getting used to that.
It irritates your skin, doesn't it?
It irritates more than my skin.
It has its own beauties, but the politics.
It does, but I'm thinking about that, and especially like I said earlier, I went to the museum and to the Indigenous Peoples Festival that was going on, and to hear them talk about home and what home means to them around here, I was like, wow, I need to get my act together and look at this a little differently. As far as the readings for this week, the interesting thing about coming later on in the discussion is people have said a lot of things that you want to say. I do. My short thing about John is that he's basically saying what we talked about before about a poem being an experience and not having to mean something. And I really appreciate that. And Diana, when you spoke, I appreciate you because it sounds to me like you come from the same kind of background as me, where you struggle to, you weren't a poet unless you, number one, you had this horrible, sorry life, which I think William Carlos Williams speaks about. You have to suffer, right, in order to be an artist of some kind, and then you have to write villanelles and all these things, and you have to use rhyme schemes and this and that, and I never could do that either, and I was so happy.
And everyone else suffers when you write the villanelles.
Well, for sure. So I was very happy to find out that what I've been doing all along is my poetry, and it's more than okay. So I always appreciate that. CD, right. Well, I am going to get some of her stuff because I really enjoyed that. And that the one line in the poem that Tim read for us, where it says, you wouldn't even notice him on your electric bill. I just was like, that's just such a, and so personal to me. I think about that all the time. I got a horrible water bill lately. And I thought, why is my water bill so high? And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. Kids came down to visit and this and that. Well, it's not that. They would not have made a dent in my water bill. I have a leak in my irrigation somewhere, but that's a whole other story. But when I just read that, I thought, wow, a child who you wouldn't have even known him on your electric bill. That line really got me. As far as writing about the war that's going on right now, it's so hard for me. I feel like I've just come out of a very dark winter and was like sticking my head up and seeing sunshine, and I'm choosing not to go down that hole right now because I just think it would be too much. I'm enjoying the more positive side of things at the moment. Although a couple of things really bothered me when they started talking about the war, and there was some article that somebody said the 10 reasons why Ukraine matters. And I read through this list of 10 reasons, and not one of them had to do with the fact that there were people there. And that really bothered me. It was all about what, what ore we have under the earth, or what this we have, or what that we have, and not a word about people. That really bothered me. And then something else I read about the president, Mr. Z, becoming a sex symbol because he's so darn cute. And I'm just like, what is wrong with the world? That this is the stuff that people are writing about.
They've got a response to those people who wrote the top 10 list. I don't know if you saw it. I'm going to share the screen just to make sure.
That would be great.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. That's exactly what I felt like. I thought, this is what's wrong. All this, not a word about people and humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that my husband pointed out to me is the fact that refugees fleeing the country, they were blocking Black people from getting on the trains and the buses. And he's like, oh my God, what can I say? He always tells me it ain't just here, but that's pretty amazing that we'll even have you in a racist segregation to leave if you want to leave.
Can you believe that?
No.
Can you fucking believe that?
No, but I can and I can't, on the other hand. Yeah. So anyway, what I wrote for my poem is more of this was my go outside and what's good about what's happening. It doesn't have a title. Passing slowly overhead in the O'Keefe sky are clouds in nothing but their own shapes, moving in wind that has shifted the thermometer 20 degrees lower than yesterday. When I almost staggered glistening in sun to the 9th tee, pulling my cart bag down a shadeless dirt path, past an old man in checkered cotton with used grocery store plastic, pulling thin-skinned yellow grapefruit off his backyard trees. He offered me 5. When I thanked him, he had returned to picking, his back toward me.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love the O'Keefe sky. I think that could really be, I think you can get a lot of juice out of that. That's fantastic. What made you think of that?
I've been reading a lot about her lately, and the fact that I want to go to Santa Fe and I want to go see her.
Oh, it's a beautiful
house.
museum.
Yeah, in the museum.
Yeah.
So.
And that place in Taos, the church in Taos. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Even if you, even in a poem like this, there could be an allusion to what's going on in Kyiv, and it could be your contribution to the. I'm gonna create a prompt for the, for the whole situation. So maybe you'll get something out of that. But I can understand. And how's your smoking habit going? I want to know.
Not quite done yet.
Okay. Well, that's a good attitude. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and you got to tap a little bit of ash off it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was thinking of you today when I had my cigar.
I know. I thought of that when you said that.
No, I'm laughing because you started this whole tobacco thing. And I'm trying to create a chain with Paul now.
Oh, nice.
Uh-oh,
But
uh-oh.
we need to include you because it's
There you go.
us non-smokers.
Right, right. That's what I said. Do you smoke? No, I do not. I'll tell you, the wind was blowing when I was sitting in the backyard today. The wind smoked half of my cigarette. So I feel like I only did a half a cigarette today.
And the wind was choking later. You see what you did?
That's right.
Those O'Keefe clouds in the sky,
That's right. The
they're
big cloud.
I want to see smoke rings coming out of the sky. Maybe I don't. I'd probably see that.
No, no.
Anyway. Well, Farhad, I'm glad you got your hand back into it. I'm glad
Yep.
you're here.
Yep. Thank you.
You can get some juice out of that line about the O'Keefe sky.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that deserves to come back. That's so good. Beautiful. Laura.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
So I was born in LA and now I'm back after being in New York and Boston and New Mexico and Montana. So now I'm going to be living in Upland, California. So that's where I'm from.
You're buying a house?
Buying a house.
Ticky tacky.
Ticky tacky house. So something that no one has mentioned yet, I did an intention. Well, you mentioned it, Paul. I don't know if anyone else has. I did an intention setting ritual on Tuesday, I think. And that was like a helpful jumpstart to the rest of the week, which involved the next day I hunted a poem. And then the next day I kind of transformed the poem into part of my series, which is more of a prose series. It started as the Haibun and now it's just kind of prose. But anyway, I think everyone has covered the reading so well and the, loved the listening experiences to your interview and the Spring and All playlist. So I won't cover those, but yeah, that was my week. It was a good week.
Just like that, you're going to share some work?
Do you want me to? We're over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
Yeah.
Okay. I will, can I share my prose piece or do you prefer the poem?
What you can share both if you like.
Let me just do the prose one.
Okay.
But the poem, the title that I hunted a poem for was fucking exhausted and fucking grateful because I was texting with a friend and
You can't just do that. Here's the title.
No, the poem's not as good as the title, but I went and I looked. I said to him, those things can coexist. I think I'm going to write a poem about it. So that's what I did. So let me read the prose piece, which kind of jumps off of all of that, but doesn't use that terrible F word. Okay. You guys can see this?
It's coming.
Okay.
There it is.
Oops, I can't see this. Okay. A few weeks ago, I heard from a mutual friend that my dear high school friend Jessica lost her teenage son. Lost him. Not like in a crowd or even to drugs. Not temporarily or partially, but fully forever. Jessica and I were woven together because we consistently came in 7th or 8th on our cross-country team. Sometimes she beat me and sometimes I beat her. We were competitive, comradely, close. Once, for fun, we ran 10 miles in the San Gabriel Mountains in 80-degree California heat, and then ordered and ate a large cheese pizza down to the box. How exhausted we were and how happy. Our lungs pricked sensitive with sage and ozone. Our skin sheened with sweat. The moist part of us leaked out of us, trying to get closer to the wind. I try now to feel into Jessica's experience of loving and losing a son. I know at least what some of the loving's like. You pour your love on him. This is mostly one-sided. Unless he is hurt or sick or tired, slowed down enough to hug you back, he takes your love and runs, takes it and runs as if it's a sandwich. You smile after him, expecting that after loving his difficult parts, the furious toddler, I know, the insufferable teenager, I anticipate, he will live in the world with his gifts, be the hero for whom you are home. As for losing him, I imagine it's a fathom deeper than the usual feeling of getting less of him than you want. The old ache of only getting the chance to see his smile in lulls between adventures times infinity. Recently, I played with my boys at W.R. Hearst Memorial Beach in Central California in the shadow of Hearst Castle. Purple-green sea anemones closed on our fingers like babies clutching, but these were sticky, hard to disattach from. Nate stripped down to his underwear and on his little legs with their perfectly proportioned muscles, laughed as he crossed and recrossed the tide band to chase and be chased by the sea. Jeff soaked himself, shoes, socks, pants, running deeper into swells to pull seaweed up to fill a castle moat. I suspect there's something inherent in boys that tries to leak out of life to get closer to something else. And I wonder how to balance my responsibility to protect my boys from death with my responsibility to let them live as large as they dare. It's a middle place like the wet part of the beach, in between the flush and the drag. The other day I saw a grandmother at Nate's school in the parking lot saying with real fury, "Bad boy." Her grandson had broken from her hand and run. With Nate in the back seat, I mentioned this to my mom, told her I know that kind of hot anger. Anger not at my child exactly, but at his cavalierness with his preciousness and with my effortful investment in him. I want to try death, Nate interjected. Nate's 4. At the beach, my boys did not die. Sandy, wet and barefoot, we returned to the car, navigating rocks back to the parking lot. We read an informational sign. We were on Bachelor Bear at another time of year, male elephant seals who lose the battles to mate, rescued bodies. The sign read, "Is he dead? No. Elephant seals have the ability to slow their heart rates to almost nothing. Please leave him alone to recover." I think about the place in parenting where effort surrenders into peace. I wonder if Jessica is experiencing the extreme of that, like an elephant seal whose epic procreational effort has dramatically failed and who lies gouged and exhausted, heart stopped, as if gone out to meet the earth, and then returning with a beat, again and again, like the tide. Thanks, everyone.
Makes your love like a sandwich. How did that just come up, or how did that?
Yeah.
Isn't that funny how that comes up? That's so beautiful. I love that so much.
Thanks.
Love like a sandwich.
Voice part of us leaked out trying to get closer to the wind. I was searching for that so hard. I was looking for a sweat thing. That was beautiful. So sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think rather than disattach, maybe detach. Did you consider just writing detach, or?
Yeah. You know, when I was reading it again, I thought maybe that should be detached. Thanks.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
don't think it's a word.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I'm glad. And when you went out and hunted the poem,
Yeah.
It was, I mean, can you talk about that what it's like to hunt a poem?
You know, I have to do it more often to get into the rhythm of it, but I just try to be alert to what's going on, including what's going on in my own salivary gland of my head. So, you know, something will come up and I'll get kind of a buzz from it. And when I get a buzz from something, I know that's it. So then I kind of collect them. Like every time a buzz comes up, okay, that, those are my little pieces that I could put in my poem and then rearrange.
Yeah, nice. And you got to use the sandwich again. Maybe that's the thing. I'm seeing those good lines and want to milk them for all they're worth. I took something that, was it John Bram? Somebody made reference to it. Real quick. Forget there. Who said that? Forget yourself. Pour yourself entirely into the act of noticing. I think Susan K. Anderson. Forget yourself. Pour yourself entirely into the act of noticing. If not, the distant mountains seen in the eye of Issa's dragonfly, at least a city of gulls on the marina roof. If the Huang Bai, if the Kang Zhu, if the Du Zhong, if the Shu Duan, if the Mu Gua, if the Qin Jiao can be choked down, and cold February after mild February, and the remnants of a lurching caudillo too can be choked down, anything can. Anything can lead to an Isa-like prehension. Reflected mountains in a dragonfly eye, spasms of sobriety, the need for cheese puffs, and the disavowal of the commitment to ignore clear guidance. Reiki bells ring on a cloudy Monday, and proprioceptors stand by, awaiting the next impulse to exit the cathedral of monkey mind. Bay gulls hear the rumor of another handout, and concentric circles expand in the lake where crow dropped something delicious. So that's what I did with that prompt, I guess, or whatever, with that notion from the John Brem. So that's, it comes up, and I use those things. So I wanted to share that real quick. Sorry about the time management. And I didn't remember the pick someone and then have them pick the next person. So I need to remember that. Maybe someone will remind me. I just got here after it's been a kind of a hectic weekend, but the work that is generated shared tonight was so fucking good. Oh my God. It's such a beautiful thing to see this workshop generate such incredible responses. So thank you for that. I will eventually edit this and put it online for Joe and Adelia to see. And boy, do I have some shit coming down the pike for you all. In fact, I've got to do that tomorrow morning. So I'm expecting that the course materials for next week will be up, I'm going to guess, by mid-afternoon. That's my hope. So I have the morning, and Bhakti's not here, so it's helpful because I don't get interrupted. Yeah, I love the Isa poems too, Ingrid. Anyone else want to chime in, or should we call it a night? Shit, it's 6:31 already. Sorry about that, guys. It won't be that way next week. I can guarantee you that. I'm a little lazy when Bhakti's not here, but
we're all thinking of buying her gift cards to go out to dinner, Paul.
the 100 we got from the guy who rang the doorbell, he rents our parking space for $50 a month. So every other month he comes with a Franklin, and Bhakti says it's for sushi. So, but I'll wait till she gets back.
On Sunday afternoons, it'd have to be solo sushi.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The sushi bar opens at 3, so that doesn't really give me a lot of time. And for me, sushi and sake go together. So the daytime sushi, I can't pull off. But beautiful work. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being part of this. And I've got some real good stuff coming away. And for those of you who are sending me things, Adelia sent me the Plasticnic. Ingrid told me about John Brem. I've gotten things from others. It's a real gift. It's nice to have this extension of my nervous system, and I'm grateful for it. So thank you. Nice also to see Skylar's Cosmic House. That I hope they don't encounter the Borg. Were the Borg like taken out forever, or are they still lurking somewhere in the cosmos? I don't know. That scared the shit out of me when I watched that. Also, one of Red Pine's favorite Star Trek episodes, the one with the Borg. Intense. Okay, people. Much love. See you in a week.
Great seeing everybody.
Bye.
It's
Bye,
great seeing
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Here we go.